up, fam? It's me, your favorite cousin, your favorite uncle, your favorite friend, your best friend's best friend, your favorite father, your favorite brother. It's me, Dr. Larry, and welcome to the Living For You YouTube channel once again. To my loyal followers and subscribers, I love you. Continue the family, and let's keep this thing growing and going. And to those of you who are new, you don't have to, but it would be an honor for me to be here to serve you. So in order for me to do that, you would have to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you know when I drop content. And go ahead and watch and like a few of the videos and leave comments and participate and join the family. It's a growing family. It's a wonderful place to be. It's a place where we come in and we connect and we unite for a divine cause. So I want to say welcome to you guys and welcome back to the family. And let's just get into it. But if you want to know more about me, about anything, you can go to the social media links that are here, Dr. Larry Smith on Instagram and on Facebook, or you can just go to www.liveforyoucoaching.com. So let's get into it. Today, according to all astrologers, today Mercury is in retrograde. But what kept tapping in on me and kept touching me all day long was the need to come and speak to you all about the importance of your spirit, the importance of having a spirit life, and really honing in on that and having that as the foundation of everything else in your life. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are like, wait a minute, is he going to give us a sermon? Is this about church? Is this about religion? And no, when I mention spirituality, religion can be a component of that. Church can be a component of that. Synagogue, mosque can be a component of that. But at the end of the day, spirituality transcends anything humanly possible we can do. And so therefore, spirituality is a much deeper concept. When I say build your foundation on spirituality, I don't necessarily mean church. For those of you who have been following me, you already know this. To those of you who are new, a little bit about me and my spiritual life and how I connect. I grew up devoutly religious, and two particularly devout religions, Catholic and then Jehovah's Witness, of course. But then I grew from those things. I felt like those were very good foundational teachings for my life as a kid and a developing adult. But at some point, I had to find my own search for spirituality. And so at this point in my life, I am a minister. I'm a New Thought minister, those of you who know. And I also, as part of being a life coach, I'm not just a life coach, I'm a life and spiritual coach. So I consider myself a spiritualist, a person who taps into spirit, who uses spirit to have a better life, and who helps other people use spiritual pursuits as well as other life coaching things to have a better life. I'm also a theologian by education. My doctorate is in comparative religion. And so for the most part, spirituality, religion, and really these teachings have really played a major role in my life, throughout my life, for a very long time. So in pursuit of it, I tend to know when I am spiritually in need. I tend to go into a withdrawal and I feel as though there's something missing. And about 99.9% of the time, what is missing is my spiritual connection, my need at least to go back into that. Because you can never be disconnected from spirit. It is impossible. We are made to be connected. We are connected by birth and through life, and even the afterlife, we connect fully back to it. So there's always a part of us that is always connected to spirit, whether we acknowledge it, feel it, know it, or whatever. And so, but I know there are moments in my life in which I feel spiritually low. And I say that it's kind of like gas in the car. You know when your gas tank is empty because there is something in your car. There is an indicator in your car that lets you know you have to fill up your gas tank. And with spirit, we all have an indicator that tells us that it is time for us to recharge or to refill up in our spiritual foundation. And if you train it well enough, it hits you really good. And I tend to have one that hits me pretty much consistently all the time. When I lose just a little bit, it says, hey, you need to fill. I can be on half a tank, it's like you need to fill. A quarter of a tank, you need to fill. And so it's important that we harness that spiritual training that we need in order to build ourselves an ability to know when we need to reconnect or when we need to fill up or overflow in our spirit. A lot of people find many different ways to reconnect. Myself and other people go through meditation. That's one way to reconnect to spirit. Some people go to church and hear the music and the choir and the pastor and the preacher and all that, and that's their way of reconnecting. Some people go to their prayer circles out in the middle of nowhere, or they go on a trip, or they do something, sightseeing out in nature. Nature's a really good spiritualist in itself to help us to connect. So there's many ways in which we connect to our spiritual grounding. And it doesn't have to be the same. There is no set prescription. There is no list of anything that I can give you to tell you how to connect to spirit. In fact, there is nothing I can give you to tell you what it feels like to connect to spirit, other than, for me, it was a wonderful experience. And I connected, and I knew what it was when I connected to it. It wasn't a negative feeling. It wasn't a harsh feeling. It was a peaceful, calming, tranquil feeling. And I gained insight, and my mind was open, and it was clear, and I had clarity of thought, clarity of words, and I knew exactly what I was feeling in that moment, and everything about me, from emotions to mental to physical, in that moment, all that attention went into spirit. So I knew what it was when I felt it. And that's the only thing I can tell you of what it feels like. But it doesn't always have to be that way for somebody. It can be a completely different feeling, because we're all unique. We're all vessels that are made and molded differently. And when we fill up in spirit, it fills each and every one of us according to how we're made and molded to receive it. But I think it is very important that we connect, that we live lives connected to it in reality. I believe that it is important that you live a life in which spirit is the foundation of everything you do. You can always tell a person who is living out of spirit, right? They're competitive. They're overdriven. They're competing harshly with others. They treat others a certain kind of way. Things come out of their mouths that are kind of unnecessarily. Like, a lot of people know me. I will express myself pretty directly. I'm pretty direct about how I'm feeling. But everything that comes out of my mouth generally has a purpose, right? It has intention. It's not just a dagger or a dart being thrown to hurt feelings. It usually has a meaning of to help someone grow and cultivate, or even for me to purify myself. Everything, right? That's a connected spirit mind, connected spirit tongue. But someone not connected in spirit, they're just aiming darts to hurt people. Or they're doing things to advance their own self-motivation, or it's all about making money for them, or it's all about making a name for them, or whatever else. There is no patience, there is no peace, no tranquility, no calm, no guidance. It's just, it's instinctual. It's the human carnal way. A human carnal way without spirit just acts off pure instinct. But even the animals who act off pure instinct follow the guide of spirit to their survival. Right? That instinct in their instinct, that power in their instinct is connected to spirit. And so they're able to survive without the same logical cognitive development that humans have. But for us, I believe personally that it is a lot harder for a person to connect to spirit than an animal. Simply because we have the consciousness to refuse it. We have the consciousness to ignore it, right? We are not just driven by it. And so therefore we can do things to block it, or we can live lives that block it, or we can take drugs or other things, or find other ambitions to block spirit's voice from coming towards us. And so I think it is important for us to stop, to be still, and to listen and be guided by spirit, to have spirit as a foundational item or a foundational reality to everything else we do. I don't ever go anywhere in my life without invoking spirit. If when I was looking for jobs, that's what I would do. I would make sure I prayed about whatever the outcome needed to be. I didn't pray for the outcome to always go the way I wanted it to go, because I felt like if that wasn't spirit's purpose, then there's no point in me praying for it. I prayed for what spirit desired for me, and which was the best way for the next progression of my life. You know, and in my prayers weren't prayers of begging and pleading and saying, hey, please, and help, and I need, and all of this. My prayers were prayers of openness, of accepting the fact that if it is the will of spirit, it's already done. It just has to manifest itself. If it's not the will of spirit, then it's not going to manifest itself. And my agreement had to align with that. And so I prayed for whatever spiritual will is, it's done. And I openly receive what it is that your will is, no matter what that is. And so for jobs, I would invoke spirit. Or when I used to always get into relationships, you know, my relationships, I tend to bring in spirit, right? If I don't feel someone's spirit is able to connect, I generally don't partner with them. Why? Because I feel like it has to be something that we share. There is a physical, visual thing that we share, but then there is a deeper level spiritual thing that also connects us, that has to plug in there as well. And so there are certain things I ask and certain things that I sense. If that is not a spiritual plug-in, then it ain't right for me. And so no matter what I do, I invoke and I use and I take in and I accept spirit's place in the arrangement somehow. It is super important that you allow spirit to be part of the foundation of everything you do. Now I know, myself included, growing up, living life, being an African American male, religion plays a big role in our lives. It always has, right? Christianity in particular. And what I have found is that while Christianity is a good gateway into spirit, there is much more than that you have to do to connect and to stay connected into spirit. You can go to church every Sunday and not ever feel connected to that divine energy. I can actually say that was my example growing up. I never, ever, ever felt connected to spirit, to divine energy. I always felt as though I was chasing it. I was running behind it. It was elusive. And no one ever told me that you can't escape it. But I felt as though I was chasing it, running after it, and that it was nowhere around me. I didn't feel connected. And I was going to church 3-4 times a week. I was engaging. I was studying. I was participating. I was doing all of the things I felt I needed to do to try to have a spirit-led life. And it wasn't until I came to realize that I don't chase spirit. Spirit engulfs me. Spirit chases me more than I should be chasing it. That it is that I found peace. I found calm. I connected within, and I got what I needed to get out of it, and I feel it all the time. So now in my life, I feel spirit more than any other time in my life because I accept spirit for what spirit is. Now, what do I mean when I say that? What do I mean when I say accept spirit for what spirit is? Spirit is something you cannot see, you cannot hold or touch, you cannot smell, you cannot taste or hear. Spirit is something that is deeper than your 5 senses. Spirit is not something you have to fear. Spirit is not something you have to make happy or please in order for you to have it. Spirit is not something that you can get in a book, in a church, in a dogma, or a teaching. Spirit simply is. Now, I know that that's a very complex, complicated thing for a lot of us because we live in a physical realm. We exist and we are fully formed in a physical realm throughout all of our lives. And so what happens is we need, a lot of people, those tangible things in order for us to feel like something exists. Spirit doesn't have to exist in this realm according to our senses for us to know that spirit exists. You can look at the particles of the universe. Even if you're not a religious person and you don't per se believe in God, because I have quite a few friends who are atheists, but they can't deny gravity, they cannot deny atoms, they cannot deny air and oxygen and the space in between, neutrons, and all of these things that are intangible realities that we know exist and operate as undercurrents through everything that exists. To me, that's God, that's spirit, that's what I connect to. And in order to connect to all of that, you just simply have to be. Whether I acknowledge spirit's existence, whether I accept spirit's existence, spirit will still exist because it's existed before I was on this planet. It's existing while I'm on this planet. And when I'm physically gone from this planet, spirit is going to still exist because it existed at the beginning of time. And for spirit, there is no end of time. Right? My finite humanity puts an end, puts a cap to time and to life. But for spirit, spirit is everlasting life. Spirit is forever. And so it is not something that you can gather in the physical sense, but you know it is there. You know it is there. And it guides your life. What does it look like when spirit guides your life? Peace. To me, that's the most present form of acknowledgement of spirit or awareness that spirit is in your life. You're at peace. You're not anxious about tomorrow. You don't worry about what the future holds. It's taken care of. The Bible says that. Do birds worry about what they're going to eat and what they're going to wear? No. Because they're taken care of. Why should you? So you have peace, not anxiousness over what's to come. You also don't have worry about what has happened. Because if you're here now, if whatever has happened didn't kill you, then that was Spirit's way of saying you have more to do. Because we all have gone through our ups and our downs. But if you are living and breathing and are here right now, that is Spirit still letting you know that you have stuff to do. So get to work, right? So you're at peace. You don't worry. You're not angry, right? You're not bothered by all of these external things you can see, all of these other forces, because you know that the undercurrent, the underlying, the strongest force of them all is still at work. When I watch the news, when I listen to people talk, when I engage with some people, I can tell that they're fearful that Spirit has left the building and that somehow some force outside of Spirit, which is impossible, is running the earth. Somebody just the other day said, well, you know what day we're in. You know we're in the last days, and you know who's running the world and all these things. And I'm like, who? I'm like, because Spirit is still the undercurrent. But what has happened is people have started to fall away from acknowledging the reality of what Spirit is, and they're acting more out of their instinctual, their carnal, their fleshly, their human inclinations. And that's all about survival. That's all about survival and ego and competition, and it's very base level, and it's very cutthroat, because it's like, if this doesn't exist, then nothing exists. It ignores the reality that the one thing that has existed forever and ever and ever and will exist beyond that is Spirit. So when you tap into that, when you live from that place, there's peace. You're not anxious or worried. You don't feel like you're living in last days. Spirit has no time limit. You don't feel like you're living in a time where badness and is pervasive and this is being ruled by an evil entity. There is nothing more powerful. There's nothing in existence outside of spirit. There is the physical and there is the spirit. The physical may be temporary, but the spirit lives on. And that spirit is within each and every person and thing created by it on this planet. So it is important that you ground yourself and you build the foundation of everything you do on spirit. And like I said, as I just sat around today, that message just kept being invoked and invoked and invoked in my heart. And in my mind, it's like, when are we going to learn to fine-tune that? Whether it's through meditation, whether it's through reading about how to connect to spirit, whether or not it's going to church, whether or not it's praying, which I also love to do, whether it's lighting candles, getting crystals, finding energetic fields, and creating an energy space full of it. You have the ability to just tap right on in, to tap in. And that's another way too, tapping it on in. Right? But you have to intentionally acknowledge it and deal with it. So when I see stuff moving and going all over the place, I just have to, it's almost like I said, my indicator comes off and it's like, go back, go home. On Instagram, I posted that home is where the heart is, and that is on the inside. Your heart is on the inside. So go home. Go back to your spirit. Connect. Find a way to connect. Relax. Don't be anxious. Don't be worried. Don't be angry. All of this stuff is going to work itself out. Because eventually we have to go back to spirit. That's how it happens. And spirit started it, and eventually everything goes back into spirit. So we have to acknowledge it. And if you can acknowledge it and tap into it during your walk, then you're in a good place. You're in a good place. So it is super important that you ground everything you do in spirit. Even if you believe in God or not, or if you don't go to church or anything, ground it in the everlasting. Ground it in that which will always and has always existed. Ground it in things more than just the tangible things that you see. Ground yourself in forever, eternal, omnipotent, all-powerful, omnipresent, omnipresence, omnipotence. All that is in existing and that has always been in existing. Ground yourself in that, and I promise you, no matter what's happening around you, you will be like that boat that is easily set. I think of the story of Jesus, right? And the disciples. They're on a boat. And all of a sudden the waves are crashing. And the boat is rocking, and they're woken from their sleep, and they're just all like, oh my God, we're going to die. It's a crazy situation. And Jesus is like, peace, be still. Like Jesus is just calm and chilling because he knows that they're worried about all of this. But he knows that what is really in existence is a peace beyond the understanding of the humanity of existence. It is a peace that will maintain you. It is a peace that will sustain you. It is a peace that created you. And so if you can just go back to it, go home, maintain grounded in spirit, everything is going to be okay. And that includes you. That's it. Like I said, I was feeling that. I prayed about it. I meditated on it. It just kept coming. Talk about spirit. Talk about foundational spirituality. And like I said, I can help with that as a coach, as a spiritualist, as a spiritual coach, a life coach. I do sometimes, depends on my client's needs and wants. I have ways of helping you to ground and connect to that. Allow it to find you and to just center yourself around it. You can go to liveforyoucoaching.com and get resources. I'm creating more resources. I'm building this empire around that. Because live for you means living for God, spirit, living for others, your fellow man, and then, of course, living for you. And all of them are connected. You can't have one piece without the other. That is how all of this came about. So continue to follow, like, comment, and subscribe. Go to the social media and all those things. And as I always say, I love you, and I will see you in the next video.